Well, it's a new year and we have a new president. We have a temporary new basketball coach and the same old problems with UVA basketball. Tony Bennett and the House did little to ignite the UVA offense in the second half of the Louisville game as they cruised out of Charlottesville 70-50. Welcome back, Cardiacs, and if you've heard this one once, here it is again. Well, the verdict is still out as we look at the 8-6 Cavs. Well, it's a tale of two different teams, a big win against last year's ACC tournament champs and a blowout loss to an experienced Louisville team. Sean, is the sample size big enough to call a spade yet?
I mean, we're getting inconsistent play, which is really hurting us. One day we look great, and then the next day we can't get anything going. And I think that's kind of what you saw unfold between the NC State game and the Louisville game is completely two different teams. A team that can shoot the three and then the team who can't. I mean, the statistics were insane on that. I mean, we went 45% against NC State, and then we dropped down to 19% from three-point land. And Virginia's MO, we have to knock down threes because we're not getting points in the paint. So, I mean, Louisville outscored us in the paint by a long margin. So it's just I still want to say that it's things that just need a little bit of tweaking. And, it would help if we get some players back who aren't riding the pine for no reason. So
yeah, we'll touch on that a little bit later. But Mills, what do you think about the season so far?
I mean, I think it's common. This team's not good. I mean, we had one good stretch with the NC State game, for 12 minutes that they showed life that they could actually score. But also you got to remember that NC State team was bad because they lost everyone that took them to the Final Four last year. So that's also a young team and fresh. But I just think this team is inconsistent, like Sean said. I don't think they're good. I think when you get deep in the ACC play, now I think we'll beat the West Coast teams because Stanford and Cal is not good. But when you start playing your Dukes and Wakes and Carolinas and, I think we're just going to keep getting beat by 15 to 20 points.
Yeah, I kind of had to fact check you on the North Carolina State age, but I know they did. Obviously, they lost Burns and a couple
They lost their
kids.
point guard.
Yeah, they did. But, what I'm kind of thinking about when I look at the beginning of this season as I compare it to the beginning of last season, I do kind of see a little bit of similarity. If you recall last year, we kind of had a little bit of a slow start. And I think what saved our season last year was that huge stretch in the middle where we kind of went on a win streak. So, I mean, there is potential that could happen. However, as I look at our current roster, I don't necessarily know if we filled our needs in the portal like we were hoping to.
I think we did, but they left again, or they're just not playing yet. So with Worley and Bliss, Bliss obviously been there, but those two guys really losing them to,
we don't really know what Worley truly had to offer. I don't think that he necessarily was going to be the savior. I don't think he was going to be comparable to Beekman. So if you really think about it, you lost Beekman, which we really are struggling in that point guard position when you look at it. And then last year we didn't have that. We struggled in the paint last year, and we still haven't resolved that issue. Now, I think that AR.
I think also Buchanan, or what is it, Blake? I think Blake's just been a bust this year. He hasn't progressed from what we thought he was going to do. He's just very soft at the rim.
Yeah, I don't think he has really progressed. I mean, there's still time. Maybe he gets a hair, but AR maybe could be that guy, but he's missing, like Sean said, he's missing his assignments. But I think he has the athleticism because we struggled in the Louisville game just rebounding the ball. That's a huge burden. I've seen that pop up a few times in other games, and I believe he has the athleticism to do that. But you got to play on both sides of the floor.
When you look at I'll bring us back to the NC State game. So I spent my New Year's Eve in Charlottesville. I made it to the NC State game, and we started off kind of the same thing, kind of slow, and NC State came out hot. I mean, they were banging down threes all over the court, and they were all contested threes. So you're like, man, something's got to give here. So when we went into halftime, it was a 10-point deficit we were facing. But I went with some NC State fans, and I was like, this isn't going to end well for y'all. Young boy, was I right? I mean, they only made 2 threes in the second half, and they missed 10 of them. So they shot 16%. And then when we turned it around, we went 7 for 13 from 3-point land. And like Mills said, there was that stretch where we were down at 1 point 14 points in the second half. And then we force-fed Saunders in the post. And I think he got 6 or 8 points in a row. And we looked like a completely different team when we were able to get the ball down low. We got a guy who can score it, and then he can also feed it back out. Because once you have the defense has to defend the post, then you have our guys like Rhodey and Imac and even Tane and Sharma who can set up on the 3-point line. I mean, Isaac went 5 for 14 from 3-point line that game. Correction, 4 for 9 from 3-point land. So, I mean, that's how you got to win games, is getting that inside-out action going. And our defense was a lot better in that game. But I agree with Mills. I was watching Buchanan a lot. He didn't start this game. We started Kofi, which I really like seeing. But Blake, man, there was times where Blake he didn't switch. He was playing a guard on defense. We're like, what are you doing? And you could see the fans getting frustrated with him, like, what is he doing? And then he was late for rotations. It's just like he's all lost out there, and he's just not sure what he's doing. The defensive there, I don't think he's recorded nearly a third of the blocks that he had last year. He's just not a factor on the court, and every time he comes right back in the game, he fouls somebody. And then on the offensive end, I think he had 1 bucket in NC State, and everybody like held their breath when he shot it, and it rolled in, and we're like, oh, okay, well, we'll take it. But I mean, his minutes are going down. I mean, he played 13 minutes. So I think if we can give Kofi and Saunders the time to really shine and maybe use Blake more sparingly, we just got to. And it seems like Ron is trying to rotate through and trying to find the right rotation, what's going to work for this team. And it's like we've been trying so many different combinations to get it work. And another one where TJ Powers is not stepping up and not being a shooter. He played all of 2 minutes against NC State.
I mean, it would be great if Powers was coming in and putting up those numbers from the arc, but I think we have enough shooters to get us through.
If they shoot the ball. I mean, there's a lot of times where our guys, Tane Murray is one, Imac is one, they have a wide open shot, and sometimes they just look at it like, oh, this isn't the Bennett offense anymore. We need to shoot the ball more. We need to shoot 33s a game. And if we can make 10 of them, there we go.
Yeah, but, going back to kind of what you're talking about, where you're talking about, well, you saw the drop off in NC State's production and you saw the increase. I mean, we can't rely on that type of scenario every game. We have to find a certain type of gear.
We got to be assertive ourselves,
because they still haven't found that consistency when they have those dead periods. That was a big issue last year, and we thought that the guys coming in would solve that. But now it's kind of like we have just different problems, but same result. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's the same thing where we went on another run. I mean, we were down 14, then we got up 12, and I was texting y'all, and I said, man, we're about to break 70 points with 4 minutes left in the game. And then we didn't score again. That was at 68 points with 4 minutes left, and then we didn't score. We didn't break 70 till under a minute left. It took 3.5 minutes to score 2 points. And during that time, NC State brought it back in within 5 or so. And they had a chance.
Typical UVA basketball. That's just typical UVA basketball. Long droughts.
Yep, but that's the one where it almost hurt us, where it was at the end of the game where luckily we had that 12-point lead at some point to be able to sustain the drive.
I would make an argument that with those types of long droughts in the past, we were able to kind of weather the storm because of the level of defense that we play. And we just don't have that same quality, that same tier of defense anymore, where you can kind of survive a drought and keep the game close and hope that you pick up steam. So it is really consistent, or really concerning, because I just feel like, and I've said this earlier, I just feel like this team has an identity crisis. They don't really know what they want to be. So if they want to be an inside team, like you said, Sean, they got to pound the ball into the paint,
and we got to throw better passes into the paint. Sometimes these guys are throwing too short of passes to get it in there, or they're throwing the lob too high, and then it's allowing the defense to recover. So we just got to work on that. Going off of the inside game, we also turned the ball over a ton early in
Oh
this
yeah.
year. I mean, we were averaging double digits in turnovers. And what finally helped us, again, in the NC State game, we only had 1 turnover in the second half versus 7 for the entire game. So, I mean, that's down from our
And
normal average.
There's we are still struggling in the point guard position. I don't necessarily know if that's been resolved. It
But
seems
what's
like
crazy is Day-Day Ames didn't even play but 8 minutes against NC State.
What you're talking about turnovers, though, he has had a turnover problem.
He does.
And
It's also
I was thinking earlier in the year that we had kind of figured out, okay, well, we lost Beekman. Day seems to be the guy. The Warley loss really isn't that impactful because Day's doing a great job. But I'm not quite so sure. What about you, Mills?
I just think that this group of guys are not what we're accustomed to of like that 2019. Like those 3 guys were key players. They're just not good athletes that we have right now. And y'all can say, yeah, Kofi, he's awesome. He's very young and he's probably one of our best players, Saunders, but he has one more year after this one. I just think the talent level is just not there. And I don't see this team making the tournament. I just think there's a lot of inconsistency with this whole team.
Well, I'll counter that by saying it's a different brand of basketball, and I think this is where we still have some more adjusting to do, and where Ron only had 3 weeks to kind of make some of those adjustments. But the biggest thing is
Don, do you think this team makes the tournament?
Well, we'll get to that point. But when the adjustments, and what I'm going with is, we thrive when we have older players. We are a young team, and we're starting 2 freshmen and getting a lot of playing time with these freshmen. So, sorry, no, I mean, we're starting a freshman and a lot of young guys. But, I mean, these guys haven't been in the program that long. So you're looking at the defense, and I'm like, okay, well, we're missing rotation. It's because they haven't got it down. And that's the one thing, Anthony Robinson, we want to see him on the offensive end. But in the Louisville game, it was, I want to say it was 3 possessions in a row. He was just lost in the sauce. And Louisville picked us up better when it came to our defense, and they found something that they liked. But, I mean, I think we'll be better with time. If you gave this group 2 to 3 years to develop, yeah, I think we'll be really good. You add a piece here and there. But the
problem is our kid's going to stay.
Well, that's also the problem with this day and age of the transfer portal where Tony Bennett, the first big transfer was Casey Morcell when Bennett was there. And that was like, oh, that hurt because we saw Morcell as a 4-year guy, and then now he's out. And I think we struggle to recover from that one a little bit too. So it's just this new era of basketball where Virginia's got to find its niche.
Yeah, I think, well, okay, a couple things. Well, one, we've kind of been curious about Rhodey and Tane. I mean, the reason they're getting the minutes they're getting is basically because of their experience in the program. But back to your point about people leaving and stuff like that, I think this was kind of a storm brewing, you know what I mean? Because we had a couple poor years, I believe, recruiting wise, and I think it's kind of catching up with us a little bit. And
yeah, I agree with that.
Then that was kind of before the portal craze, but when you factor that in, plus now the way the portal works, like it's kind of hard for us to dig ourselves out right now. And I think Sean is right. We are a really young team. I think there are some, and I said there's a couple bright spots, and I think I don't have a ton of positive things to say about Ron Sanchez yet. He seems like a great person. But one thing I do want to say that I've kind of been excited about is his willingness to play some of these younger guys, because at this point, like if you're going to adapt, like that's one of the ways that you have to adapt is getting these young guys in the game and figuring it out. I know it comes with a risk of, inexperience or losses or, product on the court, but in the same, you're providing experience, and you're also, enhancing the possibility that those kids in fact stay in the long run.
So to add to that, I mean, if you're looking at the box score, NC State, we had 10 players playing that game. Only 4 players have played in this system before. So you're talking about 6 guys that you're trying to bring up to speed. And so, again, it's taken a little bit more time. Maybe we need to adjust. Maybe we need to play.
System. Maybe
I
it's the
wouldn't say it's
system.
the system itself. It's just complex and it takes time to get used to. And because you're changing the way you think about it, when there's three main defenses that you play growing up, and hell, and even in um, AAU, which a lot of these kids play these days, they don't really play much defense. It's just man to man. So we're not playing a true man to man defense. We're playing our defense, and that is what some of these kids, they've had these certain things that they do that are written into their brain, and we have to rewrite muscle memory, and that just takes time. And the defense is suffocating when it works. I mean, against NC State, a lot of the shots they made were contested. So once we get it down, you'll see it working again, because when you force the skip pass, you have athletic guys who can steal the skip pass, and that's what Reese Beekman was really good at. So it was when we forced them to make that long pass, we could cover it. So it'll take time. All in all, we got a good win against NC State. I left there. All the fans were feeling pretty good. I felt really good. Got to go celebrate. Got to wear my UVA stuff out around town. I was real excited. And then we felt like that would transition us really well into the Louisville game.
Mills, do you see any positives in this team? Because I know you're
No.
quite a negative person, but you don't see any positives whatsoever.
Kofi.
Yeah, I guess
think
like
he's
do you,
young
I like I look
talent,
at I look at our team right now and compared to last year's team, and I think we are.
I think
I think
we're
we.
worse
No.
this year
Well,
than
what I'm going
last
to say
year.
is, I think that we have the ability. We should have the ability to shoot the ball better. We have more shooters on the floor than we did last year, and I think
Yeah.
that
I mean,
you're talking about systems and different type of stuff like that. I think some of that stuff has to change. And honestly, though, Sean, like if you look at it with the way that the portal is, like I don't even know if we can be reliant on a complex system anymore, because you're just hoping that guys stay long enough for you to instill that in them. So, I mean, there is going to be a little bit of a push pull. And honestly, and I was thinking about this on the ride over here, and I think it might be a little too premature to say, but I am starting to get, if it, I asked Sean if the sample size was, big enough for him to kind of get an idea of where this team's going to be. And yeah, it is a little too early to say. But that being said, if I had to look at it, if losses continue to be blowout losses and stuff like that, don't be surprised if Sanchez doesn't make it the season, honestly, because I think they would probably pull that trigger pretty quick. If I'm being honest about it.
UVA, I don't think is a program that's going to fire somebody mid-season, especially Carla. I don't think she's got
But
it in her.
it's an interim guy.
Yeah, but I don't think.
Like, I think they would.
Or
I said
come
I didn't say
out-
it was gonna happen. I just said that I felt like I wouldn't be like really
You
blown
don't-
away and surprised about it. And I don't.
Then you don't even have to say. You don't have to say. Just come out and publicly say, "Hey, we're going to do a national search for our coach next year," and he's going to finish out this season, and then next year we will have a new guy at the helm.
I'm not saying what I want to happen. All I'm saying is I'm just making.
I don't want Ron.
Well, I know you don't, but I'm just making a point that I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. I mean, this was so a Louisville game, vastly different result, But how'd you look at it from the analytical standpoint?
Yeah, no. So I mean, I felt like we had some momentum after the NC State game, and initially it felt like we did. We had some runs and spurts. We were going back and forth. They would have a 7-point run. We would have a 7-point run. Ultimately going down by 5 at half. I was like, okay, I feel like we can get this going. We weren't shooting the ball well. I'm like, okay, we're at home. We should be able to shoot the ball well. And then, defensively in the second half, it looked like the same thing. We were just slow to rotate. And I think it was about 13 minutes left in the game. I just looked and I was like, our guys just look tired. Our guys look fatigued. And they just didn't look like they were there to play. And I don't know what that was. And I think even Ron talked about it in the back end. But, I mean, we allowed 36 points in the paint to Louisville. And they're a tough team. But 36 points in the paint is just absurd. We couldn't buy a three. And, we went from 45% from three-point land to 19%. Only made 5. So, I mean, and then our turnovers were back in double digits. So some of the things, it's very simple to fix. And then we also, like you were saying, we got out-rebounded. I think Louisville almost had more offensive rebounds than we did total rebounds. Now, I know we don't crash the offensive glass hard, but, man, they were getting almost every rebound they wanted. And sometimes we got bailed out by some fouls where they should have had another rebound. So
But it also looked like it wasn't just on the offensive side. The defensive rebounds were pretty poor in that game as well.
Yeah, we've been struggling rebounding, that's for sure. And one thing, we only had the lead for 22 seconds that game. Very tough. And then, Saunders, who had been our horse for the last 4 games, he finally cooled off. Didn't have over 15 points for the first time. So, and we tried to get him going down low. It just wasn't happening.
Well,
But
I'm expecting throughout the year that, he is a big guy, but he's not
a true
a
five.
big inside guy.
Correct.
Where he gets by is the skill of his game. And, I mean, he is kind of fun to watch.
If you watch
I was
him,
talking about bright spots, Mills, positives. I mean, he is a positive.
Saunders is really,
But-
he's flourishing.
Yeah, but he won't be here
but he-
long. He's got an extra year.
Yeah,
He's
but
2 years, but he's still an
But
impact
I'm just
player.
saying, he's a guy that if you can get a kid in next year to build around him, he's a good guy to have. He's the kind of guy that you want. But
I'll give you that. I'll give you-
in a lot of games where he's just not going to match up well in the paint with some of these other players
That's where we need Blake, but Blake just ain't there.
Blake. And again, and I also don't really want to see Coffee be, I want to see him play the appropriate position. He's not a 5, so.
No, but in this, sometimes you just got to do what's asked, and he's doing it well. I mean, he's giving it his all. And that, again, I don't want to keep jumping back to the NC State game, but being there in person, being able to watch everything that the TV doesn't show you, you were able to see some of that where his hustle and everything was good. With Saunders, the big thing is he gets positioning, and he gets that low post position where all he's got to do is catch the ball and then go straight up with it because there's no defender behind him. He's blocking the defender
and like
out.
you said earlier, it's going to be he's going to do best when we are really hitting from deep, because it's going to give him the right space to play that type of low post game that he has. But when it gets all bunched up and it's packed in, he's going to have a harder time, because and that's anybody, unless you're just that big and dominant where you can create that space. But being his size, he has to rely on his fundamentals and skill, and he has that tool set. But again, we got to get him that type of space, and I don't really know, other than just us being more proficient from the 3-point arc. I mean, you can't just manufacture that. It just has to be there.
Well, hopefully the 3-pointers travel across the country, because we're setting up for a 2-game road trip across all the way over to California.
Who's staying up for that game, Mills?
I'll be up.
Oof. 11 o'clock. Hey, the good thing is we'll see what Tech does against Stanford. They're on the West Coast trip as well. You think they flew together? Save some money?
Who knows, man? Tech, them poor guys. Who knows how their season? You look at our season and then you look at their season. But
also California is really bad. They haven't won an ACC game yet, and they're bottom barrels as well. So,
but
you feel like they would have the advantage, especially Cal. We're playing them. I don't know when we got over. Luckily, we're playing them when we're in break. But think about it. Cal should have the advantage. If we're coming to them, we're going on a 4-hour time difference, and we're playing at 11 o'clock at night, at least 11 o'clock our time. So our mental clocks they're going to be completely off unless they've been there for a few days. But, I mean, Cal should really have the advantage.
Yesterday.
Okay, well, Cal should definitely have the advantage, you would think, in the first half, but maybe we figure it out and get them in the second. But then Stanford, by that time, you should be accustomed to the time change. So it's just interesting how the ACC is going to handle these East to West Coast games.
So with the Louisville game, though, the big thing really is just how they're going to recover. Hopefully they rest up and I don't know. They have to. They just need to bounce back. They need to have a good showing. I thought the Memphis game, having a close Memphis game, was probably beneficial for them going into North Carolina State. So just kind of looking, how they'll bounce back from this Louisville game.
And we definitely have to get some contributions off the bench. I know typically we get some of our bench points from Tane Murray. He started against Louisville, which he earned apparently. But we had 2 points off the bench compared to Louisville's 34. Now, granted, Louisville got one of their guys back from injury. So Louisville is a trending upward team. I mean, they're 10-5, 3-1 in the ACC. I think that's a team that you're going to see at the top. So when you look at it, I feel like the loss won't feel as bad by the end of the year.
They're definitely not the same Louisville team from last year.
Definitely not, and they're also on the rise. They figured their things out.
Their finances.
Yeah.
But, I do want to talk about the bench, and I want to talk about this point guard position. So, Rhodey is kind of, I guess, the guy right now. Day-Day's coming off the bench, but there's another guy that we were anticipating was going to be getting some minutes there, and we don't really know what to expect of him, and I'm not quite certain that we will see. There's a story brewing about Christian Bliss and whether or not he is I think people are just looking into Ron's comments. What do you have on that, Mills? So kind of break down the story, if you will.
So it's reported that he has an injury. That is a report.
At the beginning of the
injured
year.
At the beginning of the year. I guess it's by, I don't know, HIPAA laws, whatever it is, but they can't release what's going on. But it is, Ron Sanchez said his comments were that it was under the player's decision not to play. He wasn't comfortable to play. So, of course, X takes that, runs with it, that he's just waiting to get his medical red shirt, and then once he gets it, he's going to transfer out and go to another team.
By the way, if you're not following us on X, check us out at Cardiac Who's. But yeah, I think this is definitely there's definitely some red flags here, and I think it's a little disappointing. Because that's a position that I felt like we really need some help. I'm not sure Day-Day's the answer, and Rhodey, I don't.
What's weird is Rhodey played well
But
in that run against NC State.
I get concerned.
He's cleaned it up.
Yeah.
But, yes.
But let's also talk about another failure, and I know we'll talk about Bliss a little more, but Power. He was a 5-star recruit that went to Duke. Maybe John Shire, that's why he was like, hey, man, you got to leave. With my incoming class, you're not going to playing time.
I do look at that position. I don't think, it definitely hurts that, you're missing out on what could have been. But at the same time, I look at it as that's room for Coffee and Sharma to grow into. So there is a little bit of an upside to that. Yeah. But again, it depends on what he was going to offer. If he was going to give you 20 a night, then yeah, that's a huge loss.
Let's hope that Power is having the same difficult adjustment to Virginia basketball, kind of like what Rhodey did last year. Rhodey's come on stronger this year. He's played a lot better. So I'll retract my statements where he should just be off the bench. He's played enough to be in that starting lineup, and he's found a way to drive to the basket and make some tough shots. So I'll give it to Rhodey. But, I'm hoping Power, give him some time, let him figure it out. But,
but you also got to look at Power. Power's still
he's lost his playing time. He went from starting to 2 minutes a game.
Yeah, I think he's still got a lot of years left in his career. Whether he's going to spend them at UVA or not will be determined. But, another guy that we definitely are feeling, you would hope that Gertrude would have been the guy, that could have stepped up in this role. There's definitely, I think...
Stupid scooters.
I definitely think there's an opportunity in the point guard position, and maybe we're wrong about Christian Bliss. Maybe there's a little more...
I don't think we're wrong.
I'm just saying there's a possibility, but...
So I looked it up, and so Ron talked to the media yesterday. And so in December, he was day-to-day after the SMU game. That was pretty early in December. And then after that, there was just no updates. He just kind of came off the injury list and whatnot. And Ron said he has the ability to practice, but it's just a player decision that he's still nursing it. Ron alluded to that he'll talk to the trainers. We've done everything we could. This is more of a player feeling, If he doesn't feel healthy, then he's not. I think that's the key phrase that everybody on X and on the Wahoo's 24/7 page, everybody's keying in on. So you're telling the kid could practice. He's not even practicing, saying a foot injury. And obviously you have to run. But at some point, when is enough enough? And when are we going to say, like Mill said, is he just going to use this to try to get a medical red shirt and just move on from Virginia? If that was the case, you should have just transferred out when you still had that 30-day window at the beginning of the year. If you didn't want to be here, don't waste our time. Don't waste our resources. I think I read a lot of the comments today, which I normally don't do, but people are just frustrated with them. And if this was 10 years ago, everybody is supporting the kid because we know he's going to be back next year. And we're like, hey, nurse up, get 100%, come on out to the court. But now that NIL's involved and everything and transfer portal, people are not happy. We have expectations, and we're giving you money through the NIL. We're giving you money through scholarship. We're giving you facilities, and you're If I didn't show up to work, I don't get paid. If I no call, no show, I don't get paid. Ben, same for you. Mills, same for you.
I'm guessing he didn't go to the Good Feet store and get the right Orthotics.
Apparently, I mean, Jonathan
He did
Cotton's got to
not.
get him set up. Maybe the Nike isn't doing it for him, but we got to figure it out. And I don't like being this way towards a kid, but I can see people's frustration in the fact that he's probably just using us to transfer out. And I don't think the only apparel he's going to wear for this basketball team is a sweatsuit. He ain't going to suit up for us. That's my opinion.
Yeah. And I think I told Sean or Ben this. I said, just go ahead and let him just go ahead and enter the portal. At this point,
if this was
it's
the point,
it's not worth feeding a mouth and just let him go do his thing. Let the NCAA give him his medical red shirt.
Well, I mean, if that
that's
was
what he wanted,
if he wanted to walk, we should have maybe done more to try to keep our point guard from last year, Dante Harris, instead of letting him transfer out to Memphis. There was some rumor he was practicing, not practicing. But if we had a scholarship spot with Worley leaving, we probably should have gave that to Dante and let Dante come in. I mean, at least be a good backup. Have another guy who can handle the rock.
Well, if anything, you can at least say that, what you don't know, ignorance is bliss, right? So I guess, we don't really know he actually has to offer, so it really may not have been much of an impact. But
I mean, he was this 3-star guard coming out and 6'4". He offers some more length. So, but kind of like what you're saying, it gives Sharma more opportunity to play, and he looks pretty good handling the rock. He's got to get a little more comfortable, and I think watching the Louisville game, the announcer said it best. Once the game kind of slows down for Coffee and Sharma, this team will be in a better position. We're just young, and that's what I like to chalk it up to. But the future is uncertain, and I think that's what's alarming. And that the future is uncertain for every sport right now, it feels like, in the big sports. So we don't know what's going on with football. We don't know with basketball. We don't know what's happening with Carla. Right. So I tried to find her again to continue our conversation from the football game, but couldn't find her.
Well, anyway, look, I want to move on to football. I think Madison has waited long enough for that. Pretty quick into the second part of the transfer window.
We're up to 14 now.
Up to 14. What you told me what our current rank is, Sean? What's our current rank?
According to 24/7 Sports, we're up to 41.
So, it looks like they picked up some steam on the offensive line in this second go around.
Yeah, so we picked up former JMU offensive line Tyshawn Wyatt. Mills, how does JMU World feel about that? Because I think you were telling us they're not happy.
Well, he basically did what Bliss is doing to us. He basically sat out and he just rehabbed and used the facilities at JMU. And when he got cleared to play, he didn't play the last game, and then he transferred out.
As they say, it's no fun when the rabbit has the gun. But I've got to say that I do find some humor in it all. I mean, with the whole last ride thing, and everybody thought that was a done deal. He was going back.
Yeah, he definitely thought he was coming back.
But I guess the once the check cleared, he changed his mind. But
the money's working.
Yeah, I don't. We don't know any of the numbers, but you have to kind of think that money is definitely at play, and I see. It seems like if I kind of look back, at the offers last year and this year, that I feel like the quality has gone up and the guys that they're bringing in.
Yeah, we've got a lot of bigger name guys. So I mean, we landed Alabama defensive lineman Hunter Osborne. He's got 4 years of eligibility left and redshirted this year. We got Kevin Wigginton, offensive lineman from Illinois. He's not as exciting. He was kind of like a backup or a third-string center for Illinois this year.
Yeah, but before that at Michigan State, he had a lot of snaps under his belt. And not as a center, but I think he was actually he was playing a different spot on that offensive line. So I mean, he does bring experience. He's not inexperienced.
Oh yeah, I mean we have
at Michigan State he had some good reps.
Yeah, we have tons of depth now. It looks like on the offensive line, so I think that's the huge thing. which is going to be good because then we don't have to play everybody in spring ball. Some of these guys don't need to be taking snaps and reps during spring practice to risk injury because that's where we lost some of our players last year, like Steen and Ethan,
Metcalf.
and then Metcalf. So we've got some good depth there. And then another big pickup, which is Fisher Carmack, which is a linebacker from UNLV. What was this kid, 6'7"?
Was that a trade?
Yeah, I think we traded, and I think we came out ahead on that one. So, I mean, let me pull them back up. Yeah, 6'7", 250 linebacker who can get to the quarterback. So with him and then the edge rusher from Elon, God, I hope we see blitzes this year. And then
Blitz who?
blitz everybody. And then lastly, it looks like Jamal Edrin from Purdue, wide receiver. So we picked up some good numbers. And some of the bigger things are non-transfer related. We got Noah Josie coming back for another year, offensive lineman. And then Antonio Clary. I'm real excited about him coming back. I mean, he had a really good year before he hurt his knee again. Remember, we talked about him.
Jameer Carter, is he coming back?
Yeah, he's coming back.
Oh, yeah, he's on the DL, defensive line.
I mean, that's just another guy that you're bringing.
Yes. So, but someone with depth. So, I mean, we've brought back some players. I mean, I was looking at it, the outgoing transfers, there's not many people that have really committed anywhere. So, theoretically, we might be able to bring one or two more back. One I'm looking at is maybe Bryce Carter, a 4-year guy out of Chester, Virginia that could come back.
Malcolm Green just got scooped up.
Well, Malcolm Green, yeah, he went to
UMass.
UMass, which, that's fine. I mean, Malachi Fields went to Notre Dame, but like Sam Brady, nowhere yet. You look at Ethan Davies, nowhere. Aiden Ryan, nowhere. Ben Smiley, he hasn't gone anywhere yet. He might be one who can come back. You got Ty Furnish, still hasn't gone anywhere. Bryce Carter, and then there's a few more. I mean, really, there's only 4 guys who have gone anywhere. So the big ones are like Michael Diotta went to Oklahoma State, Calandria to UNLV, Malachi Fields to Notre Dame, and then, like I said, Malcolm Green. What a fall off he's had. I mean, going from Clemson to Virginia and then to UMass. So overall, I mean, it brings some excitement and depth. And
so I know Mills isn't really that excited, but are there any guys that we picked up off the portal that you're like, maybe?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Nope, not gonna get excited about.
No, I'm not
single
saying
soul.
I'm not. So there's no one that you're like, I'm glad we picked that guy up.
Nope. Until they show me. I got excited last year.
You must be from Missouri, the Show Me State.
And I said, you know what? None of these kids, until you start showing me and we do something and we can progress. And nope, I'm not excited about a single soul. Let's
So
see.
we were not going to get any I told you so's from Mills next year at all.
Nope, not these kids until they start showing. There must be a reason why they left.
Look, I think it's pretty undeniable.
a lot of these guys are don't hold on. A lot of these guys aren't lowering themselves. A lot of these guys are coming off of really good performances from smaller schools and see Virginia as that Power 4. You got to look at it when you go to Alabama. This is what I tell you about some of these bigger schools. These kids get sucked into like, oh, I'm gonna go to Alabama. They got 4 of you already there, dog. So why are you going there? So that's a situation where, all right, he went there. He got his Alabama swag. He got 4 losses and a rough start by Coach DeBoer.
Oh, that dude, he's definitely gonna be on the hot seat.
But now you're like, all right, let me hit the portal and I can come to Virginia.
Well, something I want to bring up, we did get a couple guys that just have 1 year left, and if this experiment truly does work, I mean, that we're in a good position to build off of that because a lot of these guys have 2 or 3. Some even have 3, but we have a lot of guys that have at least 2 more years after this year. So
That's maybe
or 2 more years after.
That could be the good thing about Virginia and their transfer policy is that we're not going to get just guys with 1 year unless they're a grad, so they got at least 4 years of playing. Or you think of somebody, we're not going to get a lot of juniors going into their senior year. So we've got a lot of, we've kind of evened ourselves back out. We talked about we had like 40-some players during senior day. We're back now to 14 players as of now who are on scholarship that can leave after next year. Just got 1 year left. So that kind of puts us back in that normal rotation where we get 19 recruits coming in. So we're going to be more even, and we're not going to have these big swings anymore, it looks like. So hopefully that sets us up well.
All I got to say is the donors gave Elliott the money. Elliott better have gotten the right guys, or if he doesn't produce with this group, he's got to be gone.
And I don't think you're wrong for saying that. I think all the fans are going to say the same thing, especially now with the big anonymous gift that we're still waiting to hear the actual number or what we're spending it on. And then the $3 million matching gift that's still in the works. So I agree with you, Mills. I think once he's got the money, what are the excuses now? And if he doesn't improve, we're looking at least a 7-win season or more and to keep his job safe. But ultimately, that's going to come down to what our athletic director is. To me, that's the most intriguing thing with Virginia sports as a whole. You know, we focus primarily on football and basketball currently, but that's the biggest thing because if we don't go with Ron in basketball, who's going to be the athletic director to make that decision?
But staying on football, I kind of point out, like you're saying, Mills. I mean, he's starting to get some more of the resources, and the new facility I think is swinging some of these guys.
It looked great from the outside.
But, how many times did we hear in press conferences over the years, I didn't do a good enough job coaching these guys up? I mean, I felt like that was like kind of a reoccurring statement or something of that nature. And then at some point, you guys say, okay, well, look, dude, you keep saying it. We're going to have to hold you accountable. I mean, if you're not, if you're game in, game out, not getting these guys ready to play, then maybe you're not doing what you're hired to do, is get these guys ready to play. So I think this is going to be a high pressure season, whether he's gone or not, depending on if he underperforms. I think there's a little bit more to it based on, finances and contracts and stuff like that. But I'm expecting great things. I think it's okay for you, Mills, to expect great things. You may not believe that they're going to happen until it happens, but I think it's okay for you to have high expectations.
I'm not going to have them. I'm going to have an expectation of a 3 to 5 win team.
Well, I'm saying it's okay for you to hold them to a high expectation standard, not necessarily what you believe will happen, but
right.
I think that it's okay. And
a 3-win season would be a complete abysmal year. I mean, looking at the schedule and who we got, I mean, if we can't get 3 wins in the first month.
Oh, we did want to do this little game with you, Mills, where we wanted to run through the schedule because we were.
Well, I mean, we just kind of looked at it, and I do see maybe.
All right.
Well, I don't want to go with the full schedule and like, hey, win loss. We'll do that for the season preview once we see everybody. But I mean, we're looking at it where Coastal Carolina. Mills was really high on Coastal. And he said, "Don't sleep on Coastal."
Both their quarterbacks.
They wouldn't. Yeah, both their quarterbacks left.
So, but okay, that's a win. North Carolina State. So, how I'm looking at these games is not necessarily whether it's going to be a win or whether we really truly have the capacity to win the game. And North Carolina State, they just lost their offensive coordinator. They're getting a new guy, a new system. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I've got to call that a 50-50 game. So let's say that we got a potential for 2 wins right there. William & Mary 3. Washington State, I don't know a ton about where they're at right now. I know historically they put out.
I know one thing: they just got $50 million from the Rose Bowl.
Well, where that money
isn't that crazy? $50 million for Oregon getting embarrassed by my Ohio State Buckeyes. When I say I mean my pick, which is the easy pick because they spent $20 million to build that roster.
Right, so Washington State, okay, maybe that's your first loss. Florida State, who knows what will happen with them, so we'll call that a 50-50. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 wins. Stanford, 50-50. That's 6 wins. Virginia Tech, 60-40. So, whatever. So maybe 2 losses there. So what are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5-2. Wake Forest, potentially 6-2. Cal, 7-2. Louisville, we've been playing them really hard, so maybe that's 6-3. Duke, program's really on the rise, 7-3 though. Maybe we might be 7-3, 6-3 at that point. And North Carolina. So I mean, we don't really know what to expect out of North Carolina this year.
Yeah. So what we're saying, Mills, is we think it's okay to be. We're not saying we're going to be a 10-win season next year. Maybe we are.
Who knows?
But we just like the guys we're getting in, and most of these guys we're not getting like backups to the backups to the backups who just want a new chance. We're getting guys who came off like successful programs, all conference honors.
Pedigree.
They've gotten, there we go, pedigree.
The Ivy League is not a good league for football. I'm sorry.
We've done
Whoa,
well.
whoa, whoa.
Hold on. Let's talk about. We've done good at getting Ivy League players. I mean, look at our tight end this year, absolute stud, killed it. If we could get him the ball,
he was not a top 25 tight end in the whole.
Because we couldn't get him the ball, but he played really well for us. So that's what I'm saying.
When you looked at him, did he not deliver? Was he not good?
I would say he was decent.
Yeah.
What do you mean decent? I told you it took 5 guys to drag him down, and
I think he was our second best receiver, maybe.
I agree. I would have to pull it up, but yeah, he was definitely a good safety valve.
He might have been our first one.
The problem was Calandria couldn't look across the field and find him.
He was too busy blocking for Calandria. But, I don't know. I just think if I look at this next year's schedule, it is
Did they win?
I'm just saying it's
over under 6.5.
Over. But it's much more graceful. It's much more forgiving than this past year. We had a hard schedule this past year. I mean, you had two playoff teams.
Three
playoff teams, excuse me, that we played. I mean, that's tough that's a tough go.
I mean, okay.
You don't think we have a better you don't think we have a better schedule this upcoming year compared to last year?
Oh, I think it's a lot. I think it's 100% easier, and I think that's what the ADs need to do. They need to schedule lighter games so you can have a chance to make the playoffs.
Well, according to everybody else in the world, ACC is a light schedule as it is, so we just got to win our conference.
Well, you have to admit the ACC is garbage.
Hey, look, we're realistically, Mills. We're having some fun here. I mean, we may just stumble into that title game, and I mean, if you really looked at it, Mills, when you saw the 2 tight ends that were coming in off the transfer portal last year, you had Sage Ennis from Clemson, and you had Tyler Neville from Harvard. Who in your mind were you thinking was gonna be the starter?
Kid, the 100%. Kid, but the Harvard kid definitely better. But
because he's played more ball, and I think that's where we need guys who have played the game and have experience in the trenches, and I think that's what we've done. Speaking of, we're also still waiting on the Princeton offensive lineman Will Reed, who apparently had a really good visit with us. However, still is going to Georgia Tech this weekend. So the only issue is
he's going back to Georgia Tech. He's already done once there.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's a little odd. The only
counter offer.
The only thing that could be different is the fact that since he visited, we picked up the offensive lineman from Illinois and the JMU offensive lineman. So he may be looking at that and maybe taking his talents to Atlanta. But if we can get him, he's another
that guy.
Well, I think we talked about him in the last episode. So I kind of highlighted the ones from this.
That was a huge spot that we had to fill.
Yeah, and Brian Stevens, who left, he retired from football altogether. I don't know if y'all saw, but he had double shoulder surgery, and he's done. Not going anywhere else. Just going to call it a career.
Right, and like we had talked about earlier, there's a lot of different guys that might get shifted around on the offensive line. I know Drake Metcalf was, and I keep bringing him up, but I know he played center at UCF, so I mean there is a possibility that he will be a backup, and I think we have a few other guys. So I think we're bringing in an experienced quarterback. We're getting some offensive line. Whether that works out to be determined. I mean, I think it's pretty undeniable that the quarterback doesn't have the capacity, and Chandler Morris doesn't have the capacity to be great. I mean, he's proven that he can be. So I think we just have to do our job, or the coach, not we, us, or whatever, but the coaches have to do a good job getting him the protection that he needs to be able to execute at that level.
I think if we can make it through spring ball without any injuries, I think we see a truly revamped offensive line. And I know Mills is going to say he wants to see it on the field. I truly think the injuries killed us last year. We could not stay healthy. So as long as we stay healthy through the spring ball, and the depth gives us a chance to not run everybody through.
Hey, Mills, you might be interested to know. Do you know how many more years Xavier Brown has left?
What's he got? 3? 2 more years? He had 3 coming in, so 2 more?
Yeah.
3, yeah.
Uh,
3 years left.
That's huge. I mean, I think he made a case for being the number 1 back last year. So,
Oh, I agree with that.
you know, if this offensive line can give him better holes, I mean, he does have the ability to have a breakout season, you know.
I mean, he almost had 500 yards this year and not the primary back. So I think that could be huge for him. Mills, how many quarterbacks do you think we have on this roster right now?
I'm going to go, because you're asking me this question, I'm going to go 7.
No, you're close. We got 6. So, you know, we got Chandler Morris from transfer portal.
Mills, I'm gonna say you're right because you got Ethan Minter, who was a quarterback in high school.
But overall, I think so far, 14 total commits for Virginia. We've looked really good in the portal. We're making moves. I mean, we're just outside the top 40. I think they're missing one of our recruits because they only have us with 13 3-stars.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they'll be adding a few more. I think that we're going to see that. So, I'm excited. You know, I always get excited. I understand what you're saying, Mills, and I get it.
I think the excitement. Sorry, I don't mean to cut off. The excitement is more. We're following football year round now. We're not just watching a little bit, and I think that's the only excitement from the transfer portal.
I was gonna say you can say what you want to say about NIL and transfer portal, but at least it does add some type of storyline for you to follow.
Unless you're in the top 25 and you're playing in these bowl games or the college football playoff, and you got to worry about if your backup quarterback is going to leave in the middle of the playoffs. So they still got some work to do to fix the portal and everything, but overall, I think.
I don't know how you do it, because if you want these kids to come in for the spring, you're gonna have that's the perfect timing for it.
Oh, I agree. It's going to be tough to figure that part out. Or, you know, if you're going to transfer in, you're going to have to wait to join the team until summer.
Right. Hey, you know, I know you're not really that excited about football, Mills, but I do want to ask you where you're pretty excited about baseball, right?
Yeah, baseball, we're preseason ranked third. So.
Okay.
And we just got two studs that are second team All-American, preseason All-Americans. So, and I think we're gonna have some phenomenal pitching coming back. So we got O'Connor coming back from injury, Blanco, he's coming back, and then I think Jay's gonna potentially round out as a Sunday guy. So it's Coach O has definitely put a solid squad together, so we'll have to see. And then the big thing is the freshman kid that's coming in. He turned down the MLB. He was a 14th pick, 14th rounder, which usually inside the 12 you go, but he decided to come to UVA, and he'll probably start out in center field. So excited about him taking the realms at center field.
Well, it's good to see that you know, one of our big 3 sports is holding up their end of the bargain, and you know, you're hoping that you know, we can pull ourselves up out of at least one of the other 2 can pull themselves up out of by their bootstraps. So,
which one do you think has the better chance to make it to the Final Four? Basketball get back to the Final Four, or football making it to the playoff?
I mean,
who does it first?
Statistically, you have more of a chance with football versus basketball, because you said Final Four or make it into the playoff. I mean, you got 12. All we need is need is a fluke year in order for football to make the playoff. All we need is Clemson to fall on their face, and we can win the ACC.
Or SMU. Don't forget about.
I'm not going to sleep on SMU, but I mean, all we have to do is make the game.
Just getting started, right? But
Florida State might come back after the dude finally ate the dog shit.
No, he ain't ever eat it. He's gone. That dude is long gone in the dust.
I don't know, man. That is tough to answer. I think you would probably be able to answer that question after basketball season, if I'm being honest, because I think that we'll have an idea of where basketball is going to be at in the next 5 years after this season.
Ben, do you think this basketball team makes the tournament?
I'm not necessarily ruling it out. Just because I feel like ACC play is down, so you know, it depends on how heavily they lean on the Ken Palm, which I hate. But
Well,
You
I
know,
think they're
the thing
leaning
about
more
it
on
is
that
too is
that
I feel
net
like
ranking.
there is a little bit of a sour taste, um, in the mouths of the committee, so to speak, from last year. They went out on a limb and put them in last year, and you saw how that turned out. And
Yeah.
you know, I think that with Bennett being gone, I mean, I think it's a little bit of a tougher kind of advocacy to to put them in because you don't have that historic coach, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? That tenured coach that you like to see in the tournament.
Right.
So I don't know if Ron Sanchez carries that level of respect to. He's gonna have to play his way in, honestly. And you
Yeah, I
know,
agree with that.
so I can't really say. I mean, you never know. Like I said, last year was really interesting. How we had a kind of a slow start. I guess there was a few big differences. The way they put away some of the mid major teams last year, I was like, actually kind of had me, you know, because that was always even with Bennett and some of the great teams that we had. It did seem that times that we played down to our competition, and it didn't seem like that last year because they were putting away these mid major teams like they were supposed to. But then you know you start to see some flaws, so to speak. You know, some like the blowout losses, but you know they did win a good chunk of ACC teams, and we were pretty quick to forget that last year they were third in the ACC. And I know that you said that you felt they were going to be in the bottom five of the ACC. I kind of disagree with that. I think that they'll be in the middle of the pack. You know, I do. I do think that they're going to find a rhythm, of some type of rhythm. Whether that rhythm is going to push them to the upper echelon, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Because
I just
I
think
think
with
they're missing some pieces. But I think the ACC as a whole is pretty down, and they should be able to put away the teams if they can play to the level that they play. If they can maximize where they're at. So
they're gonna have to sweep the West Coast, like get this started, like with these two bad Stanford and Cal teams. Like
yeah,
just go
yeah.
ahead and beat them and get that started. I mean, I know you don't care, but like currently our net ranking's 118th. So and Cal is 119th. So
Yeah, and
let's just
I think
go
as
ahead.
the season goes on, though, I mean, and you get those ACC wins, you know, it's just going to be real interesting. And like, again, like I said, I think they're going to have a tough time unless they really end the year really strong and dominant. But I think they're going to have a tough time even with if they're mediocre. I think they're going to have a tough time with the committee. Based,
Because of what happened last year.
yeah, because what happened last year, and I think with Bennett not being there. But we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see. So, yeah, I think it's a mix of emotions. It's definitely a Jekyll Hyde. You know, we're hyped up for football. We're apprehensive about basketball. We're excited about baseball. So
Ultimately, it's one team that we get to cheer for and one school, and that's the best part about
one school,
college.
not Mills.
Not
He's
Mills.
by. But
Go Dukes.
go. Yeah, I can't even mix Dukes and Who's together like it's something funny. But
Dudes.
yeah, you know, if anything, it's
No.
they're in the mountains. But yeah, I don't know, man. Did you have fun coming back? You glad to be back?
I'm glad
Yeah,
we're
we're
back.
back.
Did you enjoy the snow?
I did enjoy snow. It was fun sledding and,
Working from home.
taking the water hose out to the street and spraying down the road and getting some sledding done.
I don't know. Sounds like you're trying not to go to work, but no. If you joined us, thanks for waiting out the break, and as always, go Who's.
Go Who's.
Go Who's.